So here we're actually talking about women of a certain class exercising power. And talk to us a little bit about the development of that class.
Well, you have probably three major sources of economic power at this time. One is the planter elite of Virginia and the Carolinas, and to some extent, obviously, Maryland and Delaware. Then you have the mercantile elite of the cities, Charleston to some extent, but certainly Philadelphia, Boston, and throughout New England and New York. And then you have the landed patroon classes, say, of and the great landed classes of New York, to some extent of Pennsylvania. So these would be three groups that economically compose this, what I'm calling an elite ruling class.
And what role do women play in maintaining this class?
Well, they display
or perpetuating it?
They display it through their manners, through their wit, through their education, through their taste in clothes and home accoutrements. They help create it through marriages, both as the objects of marriage, as young women, but also as marriage brokers. Hamilton marries into the Schuyler family. John Jay marries into the Livingston family. I like to give the example of a Philadelphia physician, whose father was also a physician, William Shippen, who is...
William Shippen.
He marries into the Lee family from Philadelphia, which is quite a move up. He marries Alice Lee. And not surprisingly, shortly after that, George Washington appoints him as chief medical officer of the Continental Army. After the war, William Shippen succeeds in marrying his daughter, I must say very much against her will at the age of 17, to Henry Livingston. So there you have this connection between the Lees, Philadelphia professional class, and the Livingstons of New York, making William Shippen then, I guess, a cousin-in-law, or certainly related by marriage to John Jay. So this is how I think you can see the role that marriage plays in the construction of the Federalist Party.
That's fascinating.
And a lot of this occurs at these salons.
So we're now seeing women in some sense as part of the culture that men, through their money-making machinations and their political machinations, have created. But you've written a lot and very effectively about women's relations with each other and how those relationships inspire and create a broader culture. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I will, but I'd like to just make one other point, which I think is following up on your last question. The elite were less involved, especially in Philadelphia anyway, they were less involved in sort of day-to-day philanthropic efforts. However, the middle class, which I would say begins to develop in the early 19th century, and certainly by the 1820s, these are the worker bees. These are the women who are going door to door, initially distributing Bibles and religious tracts and starting Sunday schools and attempting to induce the children of the poor and increasingly the children of immigrants into the Sunday schools. And in this process, they discover urban poverty and the realities of urban poverty. And I would say by the 1840s, these middle-class women, far more than middle-class men, are experts on public health issues, on tenement reform, on the conditions in the needle trades, in the vicissitudes that prostitutes face socially and medically.
And is that the origin of the female reform?
This would be the origin, and these are women who themselves are largely new to the city. People are pouring out of New England where the land is wearing out and the population is dense. They're moving to west along these routes, water routes, and they're also moving to New York City. And the women who move to New York City are either the poor who enter the needle trades or prostitution or washerwomen and laundrywomen, or they are the wives of ambitious shopkeepers, merchants, artisans, and this is I would say, is the core of this new middle class. These women are literate, they read, they're polished, they are trying to emulate the elite women of the earlier period, but they are truly middle class women, and they feel a number of them feel quite restricted by the cult of true womanhood, which really limits their roles to domesticity and motherhood, and they break through using religion as a way to get out of the bonds of true womanhood and basically into the streets of New York and into positions increasingly, I would say, of real power, certainly power over working class women and children, but also they lobby legislatures, they publish newspapers and journals, they have national organizations. They are very visible and they have a strong reforming voice.